What's going on, Inspirators? It's your boy Tony D, TonyDoyleInspires.com. Thanks for popping in the Inspirate channel once again. I appreciate you guys stopping in to my channel. Today we got something special for you. I want to talk a little bit today, once again, about some things that have popped up recently in my coaching with some clients, both a business client and a personal client. Similar things going on in their life. And what it is I want to talk to you about is stress and anxiety. And if you are somebody who suffers from stress and anxiety, you definitely want to stay tuned for this video. We're going to talk about what it is, how it happens, and I'm going to give you some strategies, both to head it off at the pass and some things you can do when you find yourself stressed out or possibly having a panic attack in your anxiety in a day-to-day basis. So we're going to talk about those type of things. If that is you, Inspirator, have no fear. You are not alone. Please consider subscribing to our channel. We do have several things that can help you here, including some meditations, some affirmations, and lots of ways to raise your vibration. So if you would subscribe, I would appreciate it. Hit that little bell symbol. That's will give you notification every day when we upload new videos. If you like this, please give it a thumbs up. It works with the algorithm here on YouTube to let other like-minded folks see the video who may not normally be able to see it. And as always, I say if you love it, please consider sharing it out directly to your friends, to your own social media pages, groups, and timelines and stories, wherever and whoever you think we might be able to help. We are trying to spread the message and help as many people as possible. So if you do that, I would certainly appreciate it. All right, Inspirators, we're going to go ahead and get into the topic. I'm not going to try to keep you too long today, but I do definitely want to give you some strategies and tips. So we'll just start like this. Well, it's normal to get nervous about an important event or life changes. That's normal for all of us. But there are about 40 million Americans alone living with an anxiety disorder. Okay, that's just America. So extrapolating that out, we could easily see that there could be over 100 million people suffering severe levels of anxiety. So anxiety is a range, and it can go all the way from, like we were saying, some intense worrying about things that we're not able to control, all the way up to panic disorder. If you're familiar with panic attacks, we're talking about sudden episodes of fear, heart palpitations, trembling, sweating, really shutting down of you being able to operate and do your day-to-day life functions. So it can definitely be a serious thing, and you know, for us conscious creators, we know that this is a serious, out of control, as Abraham would say, a car going down the hill with a lot of negative momentum, right? So I'm going to give you today some things that where we can get out in front of it, and I'm also going to give you some strategies and tips if you're in the middle of a stress activity or a stress episode or panic attack, something like that. Now, for those with anxiety disorder, it's especially important to look into long-term strategies that can help manage or reduce anxiety, like talk therapy, those types of things. But all of us, every single one of us who suffer from any amount of stress or anxiety, can definitely help reduce that in our day-to-day lives with simple lifestyle changes, such as eating well-balanced diet, drinking alkaline water, limiting our alcohol and caffeine, and taking time for ourselves. Meditation, things like that have been proven effective to reduce those. Plus, like I said, there are definitely some steps that you can take in the moment when anxiety state starts to take hold or where the stress becomes overwhelming. And we'll talk about 10 suggestions specifically for anxiety and some for stress release or relief as well. So let's start talking about a little bit about what goes on in the body physiologically and how we might be able to counteract that. So we'll start on the stress side with your body's basic stress response. So a normal stress response, and this is a natural part of your body's mechanism, your muscles tense, your heart races, your breath becomes faster. Okay, we all know this. We've all been stressed. We've all been scared. Even a scary movie sometimes can invoke the stress response. We call it fight or flight, right? The fight or flight response. Basically, your hormones get your body ready to either take on a threat or to run away from it. So you're either trying to get away from it or to take it on. This could also be a challenge, not necessarily a threat. So say, when a burning car or something is going on and you hear about someone that's got an amazing amount of bravery, some courage, that pulled a kid out of a car or ran in and got a puppy out of a burning building, something like that. The same thing happens there, stress response. The problem is if this happens too often, say someone gets super stressed out in traffic and they've got a long commute to and from work, so you're talking about living in stress response twice a day for 5 to 6 days a week, something similar, or for any other reason where they would see that as a daily pattern, it can become chronic stress, and that takes a huge toll on different parts of the body and on our overall health. Okay, they say that stress is absolutely scientifically proven the number one factor of disease in the body. Disease. So we get disease really based upon the stress because we're living in that anxious fight or flight so much of the time that our body doesn't get a chance to regenerate correctly. So let's talk about what happens. So basically, hormones are the chemicals that tell certain parts of our body to spring into action when they need to, right? So we've got adrenaline glands that make up what our body prepares to fight or run from danger. So you've got cortisol, adrenaline, noradrenaline, like all these chemicals inside the body, and when that is detected, the body goes into overdrive producing those. Okay, and when those stay at a high level for a long time, they weaken bones, they reduce our immune system, obviously they mess with our sleep patterns, and they can actually make us lose muscle in the long run as it starts eating away at us from the inside out. So it's no good. Some other symptoms are lots of people get stomach pain, so like butterflies, but to an extreme level. Like if you're stressed, you may have actual nausea, because your body is slow to stop digestion during the fight or flight response, and you've got a lot of additional chemicals in there. So this is normal, but it is indication that you've got chronic stress going on if you have a continued amount of nausea. It's one of the things that a primary care physician will definitely check out for you. Also, bathroom trouble, you guys know. So with nausea comes diarrhea, sometimes constipation, because once again, this affects your digestive system. With that, heartburn, acid reflux, GERD, all those fun things. Once again, digestion systems and the way that your body processes foods and liquids reduce, because honestly all the energy is focused on, once again, fighting the threat or running from it. Okay, you also can obviously, and we've all probably gotten some of these stress headaches. So basically what happens when you're stressed, the muscles in your head, neck, shoulders, all this part up here especially, tighten up. And this can lead to tension headaches, migraines, and we'll talk about some relaxation techniques that can help lower that stress level. Obviously, meditation, different therapies can help with that as well, if that's discovered to be some kind of ongoing chronic thing for you. Also in ladies, menstruation can be affected. Once again, it could either worsen a PMS or it could completely wipe away a period. Sexual desire is also affected. So once again, all these energies from all the other parts of the body are being collected together and focused so that we can fight what's going on. Unfortunately, this causes some other problems other than those things, including breathing issues. When you're stressed or anxious, you probably notice that you will breathe harder and faster, okay? Which obviously can be a problem, especially if you have asthma or if you have other breathing problems, lung disease, emphysema, those type of things. It also, over a period of a long time, and if you guys have been with me for a while, we've got a couple videos on breathing techniques. We already don't do a good job of exhaling our breath, and when we're breathing hard and fast, we do a less efficient job of that as well. So that can definitely lead to long-term problems. Also, living in this constant stressor and anxiety causes heart problems. So the hormones that get into your system when you're stressed can be really bad for the heart, especially if they stay at high levels for a long time. They can raise your blood pressure, which obviously leads to heart attack or stroke. They may cause inflammation of the blood vessels, supply your heart muscle, and that can also lead to heart attack and all kind of bad things. If you're diabetic, living in stress definitely further affects you. What happens is when you're stressed, your liver releases glucose, which is like your body's internal sugar. It releases that into your blood to fuel the fight or the flight once again, right? So it prepares for a need of excess energy. So it releases that glucose. That can lead to diabetes, or if you already have diabetes, a lot of problems, because obviously what happens is with that excess amount of glucose in your system, then other organs have to work doubly hard to keep your blood sugar level evened out and those types of things. So that can definitely be a problem, especially if you already have that or are borderline susceptible. So I don't want to feel like this is a negative video, you know. I just want to lay down a basis for why we should really address these things. Okay, so like I said, some amount of these are natural, and it's things that we all do go through, even myself, you know. There are definitely ways to set up your life so that you can incorporate some of these strategies on a day-to-day basis, and I always suggest it. As you guys know, I work with a lot of anger management, especially youth, teenagers, and I always go through a list of coping strategies, anger management techniques, distraction techniques, and we find what works for the individual, and then I help them set up a day-to-day plan and get a habit. Once again, the newest science suggests it takes about 66 days for the body to get in an actual habit, an automation, so that it does it without a struggle, without a fight, and it actually expects it. So, like you may have experienced this if you guys work out. First month is always pretty hard, but if you stay through that first month and get through the second month, and you have a natural habit, whatever it is, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, whenever you work out, if you work out every day, once you get into a habit and a pattern, your body will accept that as natural, and then it actually expects to get those that energy level, you know, those things on a day-to-day basis, and then you miss it when it's not there, and that's what you want to get to. You want to get that automation. So we're going to talk a little bit about the things that you can do. So just in general, 30 minutes a day of moderate exercise, such as simple things like a brisk walk or a swim. If you guys like hiking, I love doing hiking in nature because you get a twofer there, getting out into nature as well. But 30 minutes of general exercise, if you can incorporate that into your day, will limit the effects of stress on your body. And if you do, like I said, outdoor in the sunshine, you can get even more. You get the vitamin D from the sunshine, you get the fresh air, you get that grounding back with nature, and those type of things. So if and when you can do that, do that. Check on here on the channel. We've got several videos about setting up positive habits, morning routines, and those type of things, and that can definitely help you out. The other thing I really want to touch on as far as stress relief in general, as a way to head it off, is just carrying a positive attitude. So realize that stress can be a good thing in certain situations, right? So it's natural, you know, it's part of our nature, you know. For example, you know, if you have a tight deadline and you need to focus on a test or presentation, it can actually help us to lock into that, right? So, and when we're manifesting, like to take a little bit of stress and help us focus on a certain thing that we really want and avoid other distractions is a good positive thing, right? So if you can just that little bit of a slight different view, you know, just view it as a friend and not like an enemy, okay? And just realize it is what it is. Sometimes we need it. We just don't want to be in that all the time, you know. So make friends with it, like I said. That way our body can deal with it in a healthier way, okay? That being said, the positive attitude we can also bring to it definitely lowers the stress level. So what we want to do to and everybody's different. And I definitely have videos on this, on just raising your vibration and getting a different positive attitude. But it's really being able to recall at a moment's notice those things that bring you love and joy. So it may be family, kids, parents, great friends, mates, pets. Pets do a lot for a lot of us. We're really into animals and those type of things. So anything that you're really passionate about, your power is in your passion. And when you can recall those things, or even better yet, bring those things into your life on a daily basis, you will be able to head off stress. Okay. Definitely look at some other things and what works for you normally, like what raises your vibration, what makes you happy on a day-to-day basis. And if you can't bring it into your actual experience daily, bring in an opportunity for you to recall those things. So maybe a journaling exercise where you journal on that, or at least a flashback to a memory, or maybe even a positive outlook for a holiday or something coming up that doesn't invoke any stress. Because unfortunately, holidays lots of times do involve stress. But if you're going to see, like, say your son is about to have his birthday and that's really exciting for you, or there's a special holiday, a Halloween or a Christmas or something coming up, and it's exciting and you know it is, and it's something that brings you that natural joy, include that into your daily routine. All right. Now let's talk about, as we move up in our stressors and we get to what we consider anxiety and even panic attacks. I'll give you the top 10 things. I'm not even going to say the top 10. These are 10 things that you may or may not have considered, but are super important, and definitely ways that you can help yourself, even to the point of when you're in the moment of a panic attack or some strong anxiety. Okay. Now, generally, we like to deal with distraction techniques ahead of time. So a distraction technique would be if you recognize that certain things will set you off, say that morning commute or whatever. We would then consider that morning commute a trigger, right? Before the trigger, we usually see a red flag. So if you picture it like this, if you picture the trigger as something right here that sets you off, a red flag is something that would denote that a trigger is there. So think of like a flare or a little flag, an actual red flag up there, and be like, hey, there's a trigger up there. We might want to steer clear of that. That's where distraction techniques can come in handy, which may mean, in the case of a morning commute, might be finding a different way to work. Might be leaving 30 minutes earlier, might be pre-planning and having certain music in the car, those type of things, right? So we like to help folks find distraction techniques where they can steer clear of those things that they know are going to happen. Okay. We also have a second level called coping strategies. Coping strategies are what you do when the trigger presents itself, and it's to avoid you from full-fledged stress or anger and anxiety, those type of things, whatever your body would go into when presented by that trigger. So that's the second level, a coping strategy. And then when you get all the way to some of these techniques are, like an actual anger management strategy or frustration management, those type of things. That's when you pretty much miss the red flag. The trigger happened and you are in, full-blown anxiety, stress, or possibly even all the way in a panic attack. Okay. So that being said, let me give you 10 tips of things that you can do if you do get to that point. Some of these can also be used ahead of time to keep you from getting there. So number one, and honestly, if you've followed me at all, you know this is one of my things. Stay in your time zone. Stay in your time zone. Now, what am I saying by that? Don't travel. No, not at all. I'm saying anxiety. Okay, and we've covered this before and maybe in a live or something, but anxiety is always a future-oriented state of mind. Okay, always. So if you're living in depression, you're living in the past. If you're living in anxiety, you're living in the future. All right. So basically, it's worrying about something that could happen, to the point where you've gotten so much momentum that if you believe in the law of attraction like I do, that you are probably bringing a lot of those things into your experience, unfortunately. Okay. So what we like to try to do is stay in our own time zone. Okay, that's what we say, kind of tongue-in-cheek a little bit, but literally it's about staying in the here and now. So instead of worrying about what's going to happen possibly, we reel ourselves back into the present, right? Present moment awareness. So one way we can do that is literally ask ourselves what's happening right now. Look around, what's going on in your actual physical experience currently. Are you safe? Is there anything you have to do right at this second? And then if there's not anything that you have to do to keep yourself safe, right? Because you're trying to get in that fight or flight again. So is there something you have to fight or some reason you have to run? And if there's not, give yourself the permission to make an appointment to check in with yourself later on in the day to revisit those worries, okay? So basically we're going to try to give ourselves a little bit of a break. We'll say, well, we'll check in again. Obviously, there's nothing that has to be done right now. In fact, there's nothing I can do because this is a future event, right? It's a future event that I'm worried about, that I have zero control over. If you do have control over something to do with that, then take that control, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. But if you don't, then do your best to either let it go or let it be, okay? And by let it be, I mean let it sit there and not keep festering and giving your momentum and your attention and your focus to it, right? All right. A next step, a number 2, I would say, is to relabel what's happening. Okay, so panic attacks can often make you feel like you're dying or having a heart attack. So what you can do in that moment, and this has been physically proven, I've seen it lots of times firsthand, if you can, and lots of times I help people talk through this, so if this is you, and you can pre-plan for this, it's great, and you can practice this. I practice this with clients all the time. If it is not you and somebody you can help through, this is a great tip, and this is a way that you can definitely help them in the moment. Remind them it's just a panic attack. Technically, it's harmless, right? It's just temporary, and there's nothing I need to do. Okay? Nothing I need to do. So we want to keep in mind that in actuality, it's the opposite of impending doom, right? It feels like we're about to die, but it's actually the opposite, because once again, this is our body's natural defense mechanism activating that fight or flight response, and it's there to keep us safe and alive, So if you can do that little perception shift to be like, hey, everything's working. I looked around, it is good, it's fine. I don't have to fight anything. I don't have to run. I'm safe. Okay? So that's the number 2 thing. Relabel what's happening. So stay in your time zone and relabel what's happening. Number 3 kind of goes along with that, and I would say fact check your thought. Okay? So people with anxiety lots of times fixate on worst case scenarios, right? If that's you, you know you do. And you can be honest here. We're non-judgmental here. We're just here to help. But in order to combat these worries that we're creating, we literally can ask ourselves a series of questions to kind of challenge how realistic these thoughts are. Say you're nervous about a big presentation at work or something. Rather than thinking, oh my God, I'm going to bomb, I'm going to get fired, no more money, then my kids, we're going to lose the house, blah, blah, blah. And you guys know, if you're in that, or if you ever have, you know how momentum can start running like that, right? So instead of that, train yourself to say, yeah, I feel nervous, but I know I'm prepared. I've done what I can do. I'm sure it will go well. And even if some things don't go well, it's not going to be the end of the world. Everything's always working out for us. All is well, right? So if you can train yourself to do these things and even practice them. Like I said, I have my clients practice, and I help them practice going through these scenarios, talking through these things, almost like an affirmation to ourselves. So, like I said, getting in a pattern of rethinking our fears helps train our brain to come up with rational ways to deal with anxious thoughts instead of letting them go unchecked. Like I said, just gaining more and more momentum to the point where our body actually starts to physically shut down. All right, so a fourth strategy I would definitely suggest, and you guys know I'm a big proponent of this, is breathing techniques. Breathe in and out. Especially deep breathing will always help you calm down. Okay, so while you may have heard about specific breathing exercises, you don't have to worry about that, especially in the moment. Like a certain count or anything like that. Those definitely help, and if you can practice those ahead of time and you can get into them, that's great. But what you really, really want to talk about is deep inhalations and full exhalations. Okay, so as deep and slow as you can, both on the inhale and the exhale. And what this does, as I said, when we're anxious or stressed, we tend to breathe hard and fast. And that actually reduces the oxygen levels and, does all kind of things to us. So if we can counteract that by consciously breathing in